Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Damn analysis series. Today we're going to be analysing Element. At the start of this song, Kid Capri once again hypes us up for the track, however delivers two of the most well-known phrases from this album, being "Ain't nobody praying for me" and "Y'all know what happens on earth stays on earth." The first line is repeated frequently by Kendrick throughout the album, giving us the sense that he's losing hope in not only humanity, but quite literally everything. His self-worth at an all-time low. The second line refers to the sentiment that whatever actions you take while on Earth will only stay contained within the confines of the physical world. Of course, with Kendrick's heavy emphasis on religion and spirituality, this most likely implies that when you pass on and ascend to heaven, it's pretty much like you're starting fresh and leaving anything on earth behind you. Depending on who you are and what you believe, you may have some quarrels with the interpretations Kendrick gives of heaven and the effects of ascending. However, as he previously mentioned, these are all his thoughts and opinions. He's not trying to convince you of anything. It's simply his form of self-expression in his art form. As we enter the first verse, we can see Capri's hype at the start is especially appropriate on this track, with the element Kendrick is referring to being his dominance of the rap game. In the opening lyrics, he confirms that being good at his craft is one of, if not the most important thing to him, claiming that he'd be willing to die or take a life to ensure his place as a legend in rap. Kendrick then references the phrase "an eye for an eye," which is a phrase used to represent having equal consequences for certain actions taken either by you or someone else. It comes from Exodus 21:23-25. However, it's confirmed that Jesus was in fact against this way of thinking. It's said in Exodus that upon being slapped on the cheek, you should turn the other cheek, in turn ignoring the attacker's actions, represented by him putting the Bible down, fitting more in line with the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth way of thinking. Kendrick then claims that he's gonna DOT his enemies, referring to his old stage name, K-Dot. He mentioned this on the same interview where he ranked his albums, describing how he felt Damn mixed the message of T-Pab, the beats from Good Kid, and the rawness from Section 80. Kendrick refers to the rawness here by referring to his old stage name, which he used at a time where he was completely unfiltered and was allowed to say whatever he wanted, simply because there weren't as many eyes on him. Kendrick clearly believes bringing back this raw, unchained approach to his music is a necessary part of staying on top and stopping anyone from taking his place as the best. It appears that to appropriately convey this rawness, Kendrick almost has to bring himself back to the mindset he had at the time, filled with aggression and passion. As a result, he recounts a time where he was stomped out by around 4 guys, with his mother witnessing it take place. At this same time, he mentions his dad's commissary making commas, with commas being a phrase to represent a big amount of money. Commissaries are pretty much like a store within prison complexes, offering things like snacks, stationery, and general hygiene products. I tried to see if Kendrick's father was or still is in prison, but ultimately couldn't find anything. However, the lyric simply signifies that because of his success, his commissary account has commas, meaning that he never has to worry about running low on cash and not being able to buy things he needs. Before properly going into the beat, Kendrick reflects on the importance of his grandmother and how the absence of her due to her passing has deeply affected him, at times feeling like there's nobody in the world that's praying for him anymore. Previous songs like Cut You Off and Institutionalized had a focus around his grandmother, further reinforcing just how important of a figure she was. Kendrick then jumps back to what we can assume will be a running theme throughout this album, talking about how now that he's worth more than $30 million, there's no doubt that organizations like the FBI are keeping a close eye on him. It's been heavily speculated before that there's been certain malpractice in relation to the FBI's treatment of the black community, with some claiming that they specifically target youthful black males due to their unsureness of how exactly they acquired their cash. Kendrick is aware of this fact, not only from his own research and experiences, but also having members of his family get in contact, just letting him know that he should be more cautious in relation to essentially all aspects of his life. To show how he's still grounded and hasn't become big-headed or ignorant, he once again references his roots, hanging out at Tam's, being on Stockton, with everything he's done in his career not being for vanity, but simply for himself and his community. Tam's Burgers is a fast food joint that's located all throughout Southern California, with Kendrick noting specifically in the past how he used to get things like the chili cheese fries. East Stockton Street is also where the much talked about Compton swap meet is located, which can be seen in the King Kunta music video, where Kendrick dances on top of its roof. He ends the verse off delivering the same lyrics from the start in a much more aggressive way, once again showing Kendrick's dedication not only to the rap game, but all aspects of business that he's involved in, with one of his main motivators being the fear of going back to nothing, and having to survive off his family selling dope. Kendrick finally mentions other rappers trying to get on his level, which leads into the chorus, where he firmly states a number of things he will do to defend his place, all while making it look effortless and easy. He first mentions having to take actual violent action on someone threatening not just his position in the rap game, but perhaps his life. He then mentions having to go hard on a track to shut down any other rappers throwing shade in his direction. Finally, he describes the process of rolling up and gangbanging anyone that would mess with him or his family, with him describing all of these actions being done in a sexy way. Of course, what he means by that is that whilst doing these things, it will seem so natural yet impressive that people will be shocked at how effortless it comes to Kendrick, with him elaborating that once he's in his element, he's at his apex and nothing can take him out of it. This takes us to the second verse, which starts with Kendrick distancing himself from any supposed competition. Kendrick says that he's allergic to imaginary rich bitches who are trying to pass themselves off as greater and wealthier than they really are. By saying that he's allergic to them, it shows that these people who try to put up fake personas and brag about their wealth when not really having as much money as they make out to be, make Kendrick feel physically sick. However, Kendrick makes these people look even more foolish, as he says that the 7-figure sum that these fakers are bragging about is simply a bitch figure to him, with his amount of wealth being incomparable. This second verse stays pretty consistent with this idea of Kendrick elaborating on the extent of his wealth, now mentioning how his sources of revenue come both digitally and physically, not only describing the money he earns through both streaming services and physical sales, like CDs and vinyls, but also any other business ventures that he's involved in, with his recent PG Lang being the most publicized one as of late. All of this fame and wealth naturally led to people trying to con Kendrick, phoning him up and trying to manipulate him to get cash. At the same time, the more famous he gets, there's also genuine calls that would come in, which would give him offers to earn more money, so it makes the entire process more complicated and confusing, with Kendrick essentially having to dodge con men and decide who he should trust. Kendrick then simply brags about his wealth once again for a few lines, before saying that his career has been years in the making, and that he shouldn't be mistaken for someone who suddenly shot up to stardom, perhaps being undeserving of his legendary place in the rap game. We of course know this to be true, with Kendrick grinding out music going all the way back to his early Compton days, doing things like ghostwriting and being a hype man, before expanding and working on his own music, which was when he gave himself the name K-Dot. Kendrick alludes to the idea that to be truly legendary, not only in the rap scene, but pretty much anything, you can't just have that one big hit, because your fame will eventually die down. Instead, it's better to work hard for years and years, building up a portfolio of work and refining your skills to the point where if you do get discovered and do get the chance to make it big, you'll be more experienced and also have a back catalogue of work to not only show business execs, but also the general public. Kendrick knows that he's in his element because of how undeniable his musical talent is, only being able to reach this point after years of learning. He also knows that everyone else around him isn't on his level, describing them as having their shoes tied, an idea that would of course relate to people falling over, in turn representing them falling off the rap game and being forgotten by listeners. He ends this verse off encouraging people to do what he did, and be patient while trying to chase their dreams, explaining that careers can really take off. However, patience patience is almost the most important component, as to get something you want, you have to not only work hard, but work hard with essentially no reward for a long period of time, until you get exactly what you want. The final two lines once again show Kendrick looking at his own career, referencing attaining all 5 spots, most likely on something like the Billboard's Hot 100 list. However, at the same time, this could also be referring to people's top 5 rappers, with Kendrick saying that he should be taking the place of all 5 spots because he's just that good. This would also link to the next line where Kendrick says that if this is the case, he might consider faking his death and flying to Cuba, wanting to keep a low profile and disappear from the public eye. This of course relates to Tupac, someone who for Kendrick would have previously occupied those 5 spots in his top 5 favorite rappers. It's in reference to a famous theory that Tupac didn't in fact die, but managed to worm his way out of the public eye and make his way to Cuba, an area of the world you could assume has less awareness of immensely famous figures like Tupac. This of course would be nearly impossible, especially considering that when Tupac died, he was pretty much at the height of his fame up till that point. However, it focuses more on the thoughts Kendrick must be having internally, with all the braggadocious things he's been talking about throughout his verse almost being a front, with him really not appreciating the lifestyle he's living, perhaps with feelings of depression and isolation once again crawling back inside his mind. This takes us back to the chorus and then to a short bridge, which touches on ideas of fate and destiny, with Kendrick saying we're all damned, in spite of any actions that we could take to try avoid this scenario. Coming into the third verse, Kendrick first touches on what he thinks the public's perception of him is. Firstly, he mentions how people thought they weren't gonna see him, which perhaps alludes to his close ties to Compton, and how despite becoming immensely wealthy, he still frequently goes back to see his friends and family, and just to see if he can help the community in general. This is something we saw heavily in TPAB, with the second half of that album essentially all being revolved around Kendrick's return to Compton and his mission to unify them. He then acknowledges people's false perception of him, thinking that how he acts in his music and on TV is how he really acts on a day-to-day basis, with him saying that despite him growing up and evolving as a person, at the core of him, he's still the same old K-Dot who started rapping years ago. In this opening, it's also possible that Kendrick takes shots at Drake, mentioning how some people were trying to flex on him and stay in LA for free, obviously referencing his song For Free off TPAB, which Drake also referenced in the DJ Khaled song sharing the same name. Kendrick then keeps his aim directly on his supposed competition, calling them out on their fake personas and envious, jealous tendencies, whilst also throwing rocks and trying to hide their hand. This final comment refers to these artists sneak dissing Kendrick in their tracks, being too cowardly to openly go on the attack, but instead choosing to hide it under layers of abstraction. Kendrick makes us aware that he'd never back down to these people's challenges, however, comparing himself to the Candyman, and essentially warning these artists that they can have 3 chances to stop their disses towards him, until he decides to go all out and murder their careers. This all relates to his infamous verse on the track Control, where Kendrick went all out and essentially dissed the entire rap game and challenged them to be better than himself. None of the biggest artists he called out ever responded. However, as time went on, they instead chose to have some hidden, subliminal disses in their tracks instead, once again responding in the most subtle and cowardly way possible. Kendrick ends the verse off by saying that the artists he's talking about don't ever seem to have the raw aggression that he has, and always seem to be advised on what approach to take in their music. This could be in terms of their label, telling them what would and wouldn't be appropriate to say in their music, but also in terms of ghostwriters, who are advising these artists on how to write their track and how to effectively diss their competition. Kendrick finally mentions how on his last album, that being TPAB, he tried to lift up black artists to be the best they can possibly be, however then acknowledges that there's still a difference between a black artist and a whack artist. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Kendrick was asked specifically about this line, where he responded by saying, "How would I define a whack artist? A whack artist uses other people's music for their approval. We're talking about someone that is scared to make their own voice, chases somebody else's success and their thing, but runs away from their own thing. That's what keeps the game watered down. Everybody's not going to be able to be a Kendrick Lamar. I'm not telling you to rap like me. Be you, simple as that. I watch a lot of good artists go down like that because you're so focused on what numbers this guy has done, and it dampers your own creativity, which ultimately dampers dampers the listener, because at the end of the day, it's not for us. It's for the person driving to their 9 to 5 that don't feel like they want to go to work that morning. This quite clearly shows us that despite Kendrick heavily encouraging people to do what they want and follow whatever ambition they desire, at the same time he despises people who follow it and are simply copycats and unoriginal, focusing too much on the capitalistic side of their fields as opposed to their raw passion and motivation. The chorus is then repeated a final time before the track comes to a close, leading us into the next song, Feel, which we'll be analysing next time in our Damn analysis series. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, like the video, share to someone you know, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.